Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Sunday morning. With us is Sean Spicer, and he was President Trump's 45. He was the press secretary, and he's a host on WABC, and he has a new book, Trump 2.0. Sean, where do you want to start?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. You're getting my money's worth out of me on Sunday morning. I mean, we're working hard.
Well, we'd love.
I got to get ready for a show.
You're on at 10 o'clock this Sunday morning,
right.
And I put you on for a couple of minutes for the Cats Roundtable. Tell us about, first, what do you think you're going to talk about at 10 o'clock? Do you know yet?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about the president's trip to China, what he's accomplishing, what it means for, I think, obviously, a lot of focus on the economics. But I think there's a big political win here. The agricultural community is huge. You think about those races for governor and Senate in Iowa. He's delivering for them what the impact of this is going to have on jobs and the economy is going to translate politically. And then secondly, this whole redistricting is shifted significantly in the past 7 to 10 days. This has put new wind at the backs of Republicans headed into November. We're talking about a plus gain of at least 12 seats. Then we've seen South Carolina, after what happened in Indiana, say no because of the state Senate. 87 to 12 for adding a seat in the South Carolina House. But the state Senate, John, where they have a supermajority, the state Senate president said, no way, we're not taking that seat away from Jim Clyburn. That could be, who knows, the way Congress is right now, that could be a decisive seat. So we'll talk about that, break it all down, give you the latest on redistricting in just a few minutes.
That's a wow. Let's see what happens. I mean, Washington is crazy these days. And, we used to have a common sense Washington when Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, they never liked each other. But they sat down a round table and they made what's good for America. They made decisions what's good for America. And even Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, they didn't like each other, but they sat around and did what's good for America, and they were very successful, both of them. What happened in the last 10 years?
I think what happened was Democrats enjoyed the monopoly they had on so many institutions, big tech, corporate America, academia, the media. And what has happened, especially in the era of Trump, I would say the past 10 years, is that monopoly has started to got broken up. What's independent media? You take that, right? There's now all of these new outlets, WABC and other streaming, that have created tension. Because these people who used to have a monopoly, because they were deciding what we read, saw, and heard, now have competition. They don't like that. Same thing in academia, the Trump administration going after them, the woke DEI culture, and not just academia, but in big tech, in big corporate America. I think they're threatened by it. And because of that, they're willing to fight back. You look at Hakeem Jeffries making it very clear that he's willing to pack the court, make whatever quote-unquote judicial reforms he needs to make, because they're not getting their way. So that means if we don't get our way, we get rid of them, we pack the court, we do whatever. And that's the problem, is that the Democrats and the left feel threatened, and that's why they're willing to now say and do whatever they need to do in a way that they haven't in the past.
You know what I'm afraid of? I believe in one American, one vote, one citizen, one vote. And it's just, I'm not feeling comfortable that we're getting that right now.
No, because think about what was really at stake in open borders. This was not about some humanitarian thing. There were women and children being trafficked. This was about the future of the Democratic Party. These guys get, as I said, they feel that they are under attack and under threat, and so they'll do whatever. Why are they opposing the Save America Act? When I came into WABC downstairs, the gentleman said, can I see some ID? When you require benefits for the poor, WIC, SNAP, all of these things for housing, all of the things that no Democrat has ever objected to poor people having to show ID when it comes to getting benefits. And yet when it comes to voting, they suddenly care. Why? Because, again, you know that there's something bigger at stake here. And that's what's happening is the Democrats are trying to figure out how do they rig the system, how do they rig the game. And Republicans are finally standing up and calling their bluff.
Understood. Now, you wrote a new book.
Yes.
Trump 2.0. Tell us about it.
You and I were talking about this before we got on air. Understanding what happened in those 4 years between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 is absolutely critical. He wasn't just hanging out at Mar-a-Lago or at Bedminster, right? He was meeting with people. He was talking to pollsters. He was plotting. His team, Brooke Rollins, Linda McMahon, Larry Kudlow, they all stood up America First Policy Institute. They were getting ready. And all of that was seen. And I can tell you as someone who was there on day one of Trump 1.0, there is a stark contrast to day one of Trump 2.0, but it wasn't by accident. I had a conversation. The president wrote the foreword to Trump 2.0. He and I have talked about this. What he did in Trump 1.0, historic, monumental, but it's very different. To not understand, John, what happened in those 4 years, and you know this better than anybody, the transformation to how we approached the beginning of Trump 1.0 and 2.0, the people, the process, the policies that he pursued, vastly different because he understood and he used that time wisely.
And President Trump 1.0 was a different president than Trump 2.0.
And by the way, thanks to everyone in the WABC listening audience, this book made the New York Times bestseller list last week. And by the way, when I published the book and we were getting ready to do the list, my publisher looked at me and said, Sean, I got to be honest, it has the president's face on it. I don't know that the New York Times will ever put that on the bestseller list. And because of the people in this audience that went out there and bought it, even the New York Times couldn't ignore the amount of support there was for the book. So a big thank you to everybody in your listening audience that did this.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Sean Spicer. And I'll be listening to you at 10
o'clock. All right, I'm going to get ready, boss.
All right, go get ready.